All right, welcome everybody. I am Jared Napolitano, the marketing advocate for the Star Wars CCG Players Committee. We have a special stream this evening, and with my guest are Steve Sanders and Andy Talaga. Steve is the tournament director of the Retro League for the last couple of years now, and Andy is our, I would say, senior advisor in a lot of ways for the retro format. So say hi, guys.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah, really happy we could do this. This is going to be a fun stream. We're going to recap basically the last 12 months or so of the retro circuit, we'll say, touching upon the league itself, the annual event, the in-person events that we've had over the course of the year, and then we'll look forward to the 2024, I'll keep using the phrase circuit, which is basically just the whole group of retro events that the Players Committee is involved in sponsoring and promoting, and doing as much as we can to provide prize support and structure and all the things that kind of go under that sponsorship term, we'll say. So we have an agenda. I have a bunch of windows and graphics we can talk through to kind of anchor our discussion. But I want to do a little bit of a level set just to, again, recap where we started the year. In 2022, we had our inaugural Retro League. And I think I mentioned this before, but this is basically a suggestion of someone we know pretty well, Andy, Taco Bill Kafer, who was organizing the leagues and was like, why don't we do a retro league? And we're like, yeah, we should do that. That's a good idea, and there was really good interest. And we had 5 pretty active events. We had an annual event, which was the Decipher cards only, because it was 20th anniversary of the PC back to 2002. But I guess the key takeaways of the 2022 league, Dr. Torch, aka Paul Todd Feldman, won the league. Pretty infamous as the OG, an excellent player.
He's the end boss.
Yeah, for sure. And Andy actually finished in second in the 2022 league.
Yeah.
Good showings throughout the 5 events, and then also by Idea Track, Sebastian Grenda, and Ryan Jellison. So that was our top 5. And then I think this was Andy's suggestion, maybe Steve's. We organized a survey to go into the 2023 year, get some good feedback. What did people like? What did they not like? What do we want to change? And Andy, I think the removing of Watch Your Step and Agents of Black Sun, and Steve too, please chime in, was a big hit and very welcome, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think Reflections 2 just has a lot of really good cards that's really, really interesting format and really makes the stuff coming out of Death Star 2 era like a lot more interesting to play. But then you get Watch Your Step, which is just kind of like a seagull, and it just like flies in.
Yeah.
It's oppressive.
And
then people love
over everything and then flies out. And but then to balance it out, if you just remove Watch Your Step, Agents of the Black Sun would have just run rampant over that format.
Right.
So taking those 2 out leaves like all the good stuff from Reflections 2 and really expands on the Death Star 2 like metagame without like the overbearingness of Watch Your Step. So
Right, people love playing with Thrawn and Cornhorn and all those characters, but then when they realize, there's actually just like only one light side deck you can play, and it's probably going to win no matter what you play for dark side. That's kind of a bummer to tell people. So I think this is a really good step, and I hope that I think we'll talk about this more later. But going forward, this could be a trend of playing Reflections 2 without Watcher Step or Agents of the Black Sun.
Yeah, and Steve, we did the retro in-person event at Worlds right in 2021, and that was premiered Reflections 2. And I just remember I played 6 games. And I think Watch Your Step won all 6 of the games that I participated in.
Yes, I remember the top. So I looked the top 8 light side decks. 7 of the top 8 were all Watch Your Step.
Yeah.
So
a very good change.
Too good with that.
Yeah, and we also added in Premiere to Endor and removed Premiere to A New Hope. I think Premiere to A New Hope was just a little bit too primitive. You just really had to know your sense alter and when to use your tentacle and your grabbers. I know Idea Track swears by it as a good intro format, but I think the Premiere to Hoth, people love that format. That is a big hit, definitely from the survey, which we'll get into in a little bit. But we also added Premiere to Endor, and that we're going to talk about that a little bit too when we talk about 2024. But so we had our 5 events, the prize support, and I'll show that. So in 2022, the league was free. And as people can see on the screen, I had a bunch of rares. I had some sealed packs. We gave away a couple random deck boxes, a couple oversized cards, and a couple like minor sealed items.
Mhm.
And basically going into 2023, we added a $10 registration fee that was flat whether you played in one event or 5 events. It was always going to be just $10. And we kept the sealed packs. I think we actually did more. We did like a random one for each event. We did one for each third place person. We definitely added a lot of prizes for performance, but we also did some for participation, and that's where I'll just compare. Again, we gauge feedback. I think we removed the poker chips. People weren't a huge fan of the poker chips. So I have this crazy color-coded graphic, which some folks will probably be pretty familiar with, but just to, again, just recap the year, we did uncommon, or not uncommon, we did uncut sheets for each event winner of the 5, plus a rare one for the league winner, plus we did a random one for the league. We did PC Store vouchers, which at this point, pretty much everyone should have received their prizes. Steve, yours is en route. There's a couple still trickling through, and I have a couple for Europe that are going to probably go through some type of hub to get to people. But some of the Europe ones I did send directly. But pretty much everyone should have them very, very soon. We did gem prizes, like foils and some boxes, which are good and just nostalgia, ripping them open of old day, and some swag, which I think in the survey people weren't, a big fan of the the sunglasses. So we'll switch that up going to this year. But I think in most part people will enjoy their rares. I've gotten even across the open leagues, people like the played rares because it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get, and you can get ones that are underlying cards for open, or you can get ones that are just helpful rares for. I'm sure Andy probably
they're almost always playable in some format or deck. They're always fun to get.
I think Andy has every card and collecting item under the sun except for maybe some anger, fear, aggressions.
Yeah. No, I found my stack. I have like 50.
So that was the prizes. We audibled them up a little bit. We did the registration, and then we kicked off. I think it was around mid-January, right, Steve? With
That's right.
Hoth.
Yeah.
So we did the first event. I guess I'll
Premier Hoth. I'll just say really quickly. I think it's a superior. It was a lot more fun for people than Premier to A New Hope. It's still like very classic, nostalgic, easy to learn. There's a very limited card pool, but some of those Hoth cards are just so fun to play with, and it's a little more. Andy's the master of all things meta, but I think it's a more balanced, a bit more variety of decks you can build in Premier through Hoth, and but it still provides that very tight, like almost chess-like early Star Wars CCG play experience.
Yeah, let me toss Andy.
There's just a lot of good stuff going on in Hoth for both sides, and like all three of those sets were kind of developed and designed roughly around the same time with the exact same play testing crew. So like there's a lot of consistency between Premier, A New Hope, and Hoth as far as like the power level of cards. So just adding more cards to a metagame just makes it a little bit better overall. So you run into a few more different strategies, and I think that really comes through in Hoth. It gives light side some stuff to do on Hoth. It gives dark side an option to go on the ground and stuff. So, Premier to Hoth is the better format than Premier to New Hope, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I want to give a quick plug because Andy, your YouTube channel, right? Just andytalaga, your name. There's lots of great videos on there, deck techs and tournament reports, and I know I watched especially some of the ones on Premier to Hoth, just to get familiar with the meta and hear lots of your really good insights. So if you're coming across this and you like these older formats, if you want to get ready for next year, I think Andy's YouTube page is a great resource. And of course, the PC YouTube page, we have a channel on the homepage for, I think we call it Decipher Era Competitive Game Streams. So that's a good place to look too. And there's a bunch of different formats in there, but we always try to put the format in the title. But those are good resources. Okay, so we did Premier to Hoth. The first event was won by John Carr. And that was, I tried somewhat with the uncut sheets to have a little bit of a theme, but so he won a New Hope uncommon uncut sheet.
It's cool.
We also added this year, I don't think it ever popped up as we were talking about, if there were 2 6-0s, it wouldn't just be settled on strength of schedule. There would be a one-game final confrontation, but we ultimately didn't run into any of them. We had a couple like de facto game 6s, right, Steve?
Right, that's right. There were a couple times it could have gone to a final confrontation if a game had gone a different way, but each time it didn't go that way. So it could happen next year though. Yeah. And we probably would, since each event has like a 2-week break between them, we would run it during that 2-week hiatus, so to give everybody else downtime.
Yep. And then the second event was Premier to Endor. Brad Kipple won that. That definitely had, excuse me, I think I actually streamed it at like a de facto final. I think him and Dr. Torch were both 5-0. going into the final game, and Brad won. I'm pretty sure he played Rops in that matchup. That was a pretty competitive one. So we had January, we had February, Marchish, and then we went into the annual online retro event this year for charity through the great suggestion of Andy. I think that went over really, really well. We raised over $1,200 for the Child Cancer Fund, which was the charity that OG Decipher folks will recall with the Sean Valdez Memorial, a couple series of events. We have some articles on the homepage and some good links that Andy provided, and just want to let everyone know in the retro community. I received some really, really positive words and feedback from that organization, and they were curious about it, what we were doing. And I was, happy to explain it all, and it's just a really incredible story. But Andy, thanks so much for coming up with that idea for this year.
Yeah, no problem. 25 years, 25 years on, still, remember it. So
yeah,
just good to be able to, reach out to do different charity events. It's really great that the PC is willing to, put themselves out there to do different fundraiser type events, because I think it gets a lot of good community engagement, and
For sure.
that's ultimately what a lot of what the PC is there for is, the community and building the game up and continuing it on. So
Absolutely.
great to see.
Yeah, we had a lot of people participated. We had some real good matchups. They were all streamed. Again, these are all available, all these game streams that were played on GEMP, streamed on the PC YouTube channel. I think Johnny Chu and Paul Feldman, I think they played actually in the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken. Ultimately led to Timo Dussel was victorious against Joe Horby, who I met at Worlds this year.
Cool.
Real nice guy, and his handle is like the acronym for how do we get into this mess. Real nice guy, and he always does very well in these events. But yeah, congratulations to Timo on winning that. And in case I didn't mention it already, the premiere to special edition, again, as Andy was saying, the 25 years, that special edition was released in 1998, and that was an interesting format. And I kind of forgot that operatives were still viable, even though they were hit.
Yeah, that's
times.
interesting. Yeah.
So saw those, and those deck lists are also available on the homepage if people really like that format, or if you're just coming back to the game and you're looking, where do I start? You will have 16 different deck lists to look at, 8 light, 8 dark, including Andy's, who is placed in the top 8 for that as well. Then we had a mini casual event. It was the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi being released.
Okay.
So we did it was free. It was on GEMP. It spanned, I think it was 40 days, 40 years. And we had some different folks playing that, and we had some prizes. We gave away some sealed asteroid sanctuaries and some sealed Jabba's Palace packs. And I'm trying to think. I think Garrett Larson did really well. There weren't kind of strict first, second, third place prizes. I think we did some camp prizes for that. But that was a neat little thing, and maybe something to look forward to in 2024, which will be the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Which I know some people in the retro league are not fans of the episode 1 stuff, but that might be an excuse to have a event.
Some people are still fans. There's fans. There's fans among us.
Yeah.
But no, that's actually funny to think about, because that was my highlight of playing Star Wars CCG as a kid was that playing that game. The movie came out. I think I was in line cracking packs of Young Jedi and playing that game in line waiting for the movie to start, which is a kind of a surreal experience. Yeah. But yeah, that'll be fun to think about that.
Yeah, it was really cool because the movie came out in '99, and then the Tatooine expansion didn't come out until May 2001.
No, yeah, a couple years later. Yeah, Young Jedi premiered I think it debuted a couple of weeks or months before the movie, so those cards were spoilers for the movie, kind of.
Yeah, I remember all that and playing Young Jedi. It was a weird time when it came out, because it came out when Endor was released. So,
yeah.
You were anticipating all the new episode 1 stuff, and then you got a bunch of Ewoks coming out of packs. It was a different disconnect here.
Yeah, just on these visuals, everyone. So there's this article on the homepage. I kind of got lost here, but this article on Timo winning it. This has all these good links. You could just go to the homepage and just search 2023 retro event. There's the deck list that I was referring to. Timo played Corey Log operatives and hidden base. Andy had Hunt Down and Hidden Base. Lots of Hidden Base. 7, what is that? 6 out of the 8?
My Hidden Base deck that I built there, I gave to another person.
Mhm.
We both went 6-0 with that same light side deck. So that went 12-0 in matches. And then in testing, I beat Justin Desai. I beat Johnny Chu. I beat one of Johnny Chu's kids and like somebody else. It's like 17-0 beating like lots of really good plays.
Was it swarms or is it hidden mains? Swarms. Okay.
Base decks. It's a phenomenal deck. It's just a little bit too good.
Yeah, there were a lot of good matchups. There were some pretty big swings and comebacks and some interesting decks. I know Joe's Obi-Wan's Hut, that revolver was pretty strong deck. And then the Johnny Chu had the Sabox with the carbon chamber testing. So good stuff, good streams. On where the deck lists are, you can also just get a direct link to the YouTube playlist in the forum that was for the event. So let me close some of these as we go through. So I guess we have some in-person ones. Let me go back to we'll go through the Retro League first. And then we came back and did event 3, and this was, I guess, in the July timeframe. I know, Steve, I think we mentioned at one point, maybe we make this just like a 4-game event just to kind of give people a little bit of a breather with the online event going on. But Premier Death Star 2 is really the superstar of retro formats, in my opinion. So that was another 6-game, and then Dr. Torch won that one. I think that was another one that had a de facto final. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Will Tarbox, I think he beat Brad Kipple. I think there were 3 5-0s going into the final game on that one. I mean, and all these things are in the retro form. Yeah. I could just pull them up, but I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes here. But so Dr. Torch won that one. Then the 4th event was premiered at Jabba's Palace Sealed deck, which is, of course, is slightly different. It introduces No Escape. I'm going to go over here. Yeah, so that was won by Timo Dussel, following up the annual event that he won. So he won a Cloud City Common Uncut Sheet. Sebastian Grenda finished in 2nd. Mark Billings finished in 3rd. So that was another positive feedback, and we'll talk about. I think that format's like just solid. The one drawback is it might be a little too similar to Death Star 2. It's different in some ways, but there's still a lot of the same decks, right, Andy?
Yeah, it's basically the same, and unfortunately, I think light side really just needs Honor of the Jedi to hang in there against a lot of the various dark side decks, and No Escape is just really too good because it just shuts off Honor, and it really hurts light side too much, I think.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up here.
It's tricky because it requires new and different players to have a pretty deep conversation, understand the difference between those two formats. So I think we'll talk more about next year's formats in a bit, but like it's tricky having both of those in the Retro League.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the 5th event of the circuit was Premier Reflections 2, as we talked about with the ban, which I think was received pretty well. It was kind of cool seeing people leading up to that event. They would post casual tables in that format, but no watch your step please or no AOBS please as people were prepping for that. That was ultimately won by Dr. Torch, but he lost the game 6, which was a very entertaining game. It was streamed by Eddie Swabowski and Rabbit, and that was cool to see. Throughout the course of the year, we just had people like obviously Andy and Steve. You guys are critical, definitely the biggest volunteers for this league. But we had folks like Eddie. Sean Lukes helped a lot with the special edition event with deck list, and obviously like Dan and Garrett on the stream teams streamed a lot of games. So that was really cool to see different volunteers chipping in, helping out. I think that'll be a trend that persists into next year, where some other people will step up and offer to do different things, and that'll be much appreciated. But that was a really, really good game. And Benji, son of Johnny, defeated Torch, but Torch still hung on to win the event and win the league again. So he's now the 2-time champion of the Retro League.
Big boss, It's funny, whenever on the Discord channel, the book club Discord, I feel like Timo is like the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga that everybody on that Discord's worried about playing Timo because he just wrecks them in like all of the Jedi all the time.
He's a sealed. Yeah. He's like the golden god of sealed. I think that's that's what I think of all the sealed players think he's like completely unbeatable. I mean, he's very, very, very good. But
he's like it's like I lost. Like every day there's like I lost to Timo. It's like, I mean it's Timo and then Dr. Torch all the way this year through retro, and it's evident when they're legendary status within the retro sealed communities of like just how good of players they are, and their results speak for themselves, right? They're just constantly crushing at these formats. So
yeah, so then the top 5 cumulative standings, which of course Steve maintained throughout the course of the year. Torch was first, I think, or I know Brad Kipple finished second, but I think it was maybe around 3 wins. He was still behind Torch. Obviously, Kipple and Timo Dussel finished third, and then Andrew Bethel finished fourth, and John Carr finished fifth. I mean, I know John went to a whole major weekend up in Minneapolis, but I think Brad, when they do the Hollow Theater Awards of like versatile players, Kipple and Dussel just do so many different formats. Impressive to see them do second and third, but of course, extremely impressive that Paul Feldman won again. Maybe next year someone will take him down. But
unlikely.
But stats for this year, I was really impressed. Like we had an average, right, Steve, of 55 players per event, 68 unique players.
That's right.
I mean, even every one of these events has a couple drops here and there, but I still think we had a real solid 55 players.
It's up
right?
year over year from 2022, even with the $10 fee, which some people were worried would turn people away, but it definitely did not. And yeah, I think we could get more next year, perhaps, as word of mouth continues to spread.
Yeah. So I mean, these are like big events, and obviously the open leagues, they have like events. We have events like 5 throughout the course of the year. They're usually like 8, 10 people. So this is really impressive, and just a great job this year, Steve, and managing.
Thanks.
Thank you. Coordination, and we'll get into a little bit of some of the challenges with that soon, and maybe what we can do to improve it.
It's been super fun. It's like, many of you know I live abroad, so it's harder for me to participate in in-person events, but being able to do this and give back to the community has been a lot of fun the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think the Swiss format, and Andy, you're familiar probably with Swiss even in other card games, right? Like it's really the best way to find the winner of the event. Like we have the Online Championship Series, which has random matchups, and there's some inherent drawbacks of that, but I really like Swiss events, and I think a lot of people are getting exposed to them for the first time.
Yeah, Swiss is definitely the way to go. I mean, when like the Bermuda Special Edition, where it's just you play 12 games, you can kind of game that system a little bit, because you can look at the stats board and be like, oh, Dr. Torch already played all 12 of those games. Guess I'll post my tables now because I'm never going to run into any.
Yeah.
So, but blind tables Swiss style is probably the best way to get the true, top players to the top. And
yeah, this is good also because then people you're after the first couple of games, you're gonna get sorted based upon your skill level, and you're gonna be playing people of equal experience and skill, and it's not gonna get wrecked randomly. And I think people have a lot more fun if they're new and returning to know that they're gonna have even matchups as it goes along.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially as you go on later in the event, and that's where you can pick up, you pick up some wins, pick up some confidence. But if you're a newer player or a returning player, which a lot of the league is, you definitely learn a few things from playing some of the sharks in those first couple games. So that's that. Let's see, anything else about the league? So yeah, we recapped everything. So I talked a little bit on prizes. So we announced at the beginning of the year that if you played in at least 4 out of the 5 events, so 4 or 5, you would be eligible for the playmats, which let me show a picture of those. Here we go. So 8 players, 8 diligent players, we'll say, if it'll appear, which of course it won't. Hold on one second. Why is this not working? So here, let me move this up here. Why is my my Streamlabs froze. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with my Streamlabs. But we had 8 players win. Actually, my whole computer is freezing. The 8 people and they were randomly selected, and a lot of the folks probably received these already because I was shipping them out. I determined this a little while ago so I can start getting all the shipments out. Blackbeard Ben Lindstrom, Party McFly, Alex Prodel, Lyndon Pater, Ideatrack, Sebastian Grenda, Sebek is his handle, Chris Bing, who is Mandarin, Mark Billings, Techmore, and Harry Giannicon, Peluchin, and Clayton Moore. So those are the 8 random winners. The random winner of the uncut sheet, which I think was like an Endor uncommon, was Jared
Mhm.
Greenwald. So
Nice.
congrats to him.
Mhm.
And then finally, this is a bit of a surprise. This wasn't on the agenda, Steve, but we're going to get you one of the playmats as well. So that'll be arriving soon.
Oh, well, thank you so
So
much.
yeah, as
Yeah,
a thank you for all the time you put in throughout the course of
appreciate
the
that.
year, managing all these events and setting it all up. And even though the software is
Thanks.
very helpful,
Yeah,
um, it is still a lot of time, and every so often unfortunately, it freezes. Hopefully that
it
didn't happen.
does happen. Yeah, but no, thanks so much, Jared. Really appreciate that. Oh, let me just say one word about some people emailed me to have a question about what is like diligent participation mean. I think we were really pretty liberal on that. The only people that really were not counted as diligent or people that just sort of like vanished from the league or ghosted their opponents multiple times. So probably everybody listening to the stream is a diligent player.
Yeah.
And very few people didn't meet that threshold. They played in four events of the league.
Yeah. So those are the random winners. Then just want to touch upon. So we had in-person events throughout the course of the year. So the few majors. There was at the U.S. Nationals back in. That was right around April 1st. Premier Death Star 2. Garrett Larson won that event. Here's some of the retro event updates. We had like some of the retro league staples like John Carr, Will Tarbox. I know Dan Drentlaw participated in a bunch. I know John Imsdell. I think he played last year. I don't know if he was quite as active this year, but I think he's in the Minnesota area. But Garrett won that. Premier Death Star 2. He did some wonky Beggar's Canyon for light that Andy probably is more familiar with all that's going on with that deck. But congrats to Garrett for that. And then there was a retro event at Worlds in 2023. And Andy, you ran this, right? Were you the tournament director?
Yeah, I was TO for it. We had 8 players come out, and good group of guys played. We played 4 rounds. In the end, Garrett ended up winning again. So he beat me back-to-back games in rounds 3 and 4. Struggled greatly against his Rops deck, which Rops is tops. But
Yeah.
congratulations to him. Had a great turnout. Had a great time there. Good to meet people in person. So, and awesome to see that PC supporting retro format in person there. At their big marquee events like World. So.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
some familiar names here. Obviously, like Phil Jasper and Joe Horby. So thanks to everyone who did that, who participated in that on Friday. I think there was a Cube event going on that day as well, simultaneous.
Yeah.
That's more open. I just realized that the playmats are, sorry guys, I'm not the most techie person, but here are the playmats. There's two. There's a light and a dark Death Star and a lightsaber. So now that we got that loaded up, so let me get back to our screen here. So next we had a sealed event, which isn't really not necessarily retro, but at the Endor Grand Prix in October, and that was I think we had over 20 players in that. That was fun. We had a mix of OTSDs and Jabba's Palace sealed decks. So people always have fun with that. I think there was like 6 Bib Fortuna boxes. I think I heard out of the 20 some total deck boxes. So Kuhn won that all the way from the Netherlands. They did differential, and they played 4 events. So that was cool to see.
From the Netherlands to the Pacific Northwest, that's dedication.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And Kuhn and Eric Speaksma went. I think they went last year or 2 years ago as well. So because Gossi is out in that area, another Dutch player who's in the Seattle area for now. But yeah, so let's see. Man, my Streamlabs is there. We go. All right, so then we had the Nevada States, which maybe some folks in the chat were at this, but they did a couple retro events. I think they did a DCO and then the modified Premier Reflections 2 with no Watcher Step or Black Sun. So that, over the course of the weekend, fun in Vegas, Star Wars CCG in Vegas. It doesn't happen super often. The results are in this thread, and this was actually, they did the Nevada State Championship for Open that weekend too. So thanks to everyone who came out and participated in all those events. Seemed like a really, really good time. I'm jealous and had some serious FOMO. And then I apologize, everyone. So I actually signed in on my personal Zoom and not the PC Zoom. So we're going to have to just do a quick 30-second restart in a couple minutes. So just a heads up on that, but I'll just have to restart the Zoom. but we have a few minutes still. So definitely wanted to mention one more event for 2023 in the retro vein. The first annual Beezer Bowl, Corporal Beezer.
Mm-hmm.
Andy's going up on Saturday to that. There's going to be a retro event on Friday, which is 2 days from now. Premier Death Star 2 starts at 12. Here's this forum. It's right in the tournaments, casual non-league events. There's links on being posted. It's getting promoted on different. I should post this in the chat too.
And the entry fee is a copy of Corporal Beezer. Is that right,
Yes.
Andy?
I ordered mine on Category 1 games the other day.
Especially got sold
Scott
out.
Church is going to be selling out of his Corporal Beezers if he hasn't already.
Yeah. So this will be a lot of fun. I wish I can go. Just too much going on at home. But yeah, retro event on Friday, and then Saturday is going to be an open event. And they're also doing, and we can promote this, they're doing a parallel GEMP online event. So if you do have FOMO about going to the sweet event with all the sweet prizes and camaraderie and in-person Star Wars CCG, there's a forum post going on. So just go to forum.starwarsccg.org. Look at the new post. You'll definitely see it. It's in the casual and non-league events, or just check Discord or Slack. Beezer Bowl parallel event. Here it is, and you can sign up for that just by listing up.
Yeah, I think the winner of the online parallel event is going to play the winner of the in-person event somehow and jump afterwards. It should be kind of a fun hybrid experience.
Yeah, and I told Tommy, who's organizing it with the help of Misha, that if they get 10 people for the parallel, we will give a uncommon Endor light side uncut sheet to the top 2 players. Whoever wins the in-person one on Friday, and whoever wins the jump one, and whoever squares off. So we'll do that. So hopefully people participate.
Sweet, yeah.
I'm not the type of person, if they don't get to 10, but if they get 6, 7, 8, something like that, we'll still do a sheet. But hopefully people sign up and participate in that. But that'll be we actually saw, so we were there not too long ago, and I saw Corporal Beezer. I think she's like right in the middle of the sheet, honestly. So that is the Beezer Bowl. I think that pretty much takes us through all the 2023 recaps. So yeah, this is a good spot to just pause the stream real quick, restart the Zoom, and then we'll talk about 2024 stuff, feedback from the survey, and go from there. All right, so we will be right back.
pairings, scheduling, whether observers can be allowed for games, things like that. So we got a lot of feedback, and we reviewed it all. We kind of came up with our idea for how to go forward with 2024. I think you all will see that it's going to be pretty similar to 2022, 2023 in terms of the formats, but with enough differences to keep it interesting and fresh, but not be totally require people to learn 5 new metas or anything. So with that, you want to just jump in, Jared and Andy, and talk about the first event for 24?
Yeah, hang on a second, Steve. I don't know. My Streamlabs is freezing and not doing well.
Okay.
And of course, there's always.
While you're pulling that up, I'll say that we are planning to start at the end of January and probably go with the league. Similar to 23, we're going to have 5 league events with a break between event 2 and 3 to do a special retro event that would feed into the online championship series, which I think, Andy will be able to talk more about that. Do we have the graphics up now, Jared? Are we good?
Yeah, hang on. I'm hoping.
Okay, sure.
I don't know what's going on here. Nothing's responding on my Streamlabs. I have not had this happen in a long time. It looks like it's muted, and every time I try to click on mute, it doesn't do anything. So really sorry about this. Hold on, and I'm hoping someone can kind of verify in the chat, but I think we only have a few viewers.
Let me see. I think one of my friends is on right now watching. I think Misha's on as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now I think even though I'm seeing the microphone go, so, but my Streamlabs is totally frozen. It's not.
Okay.
It's not letting me do anything, and it probably just crashed. So I might restart. Okay, hold on. Maybe we. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's.
All right. Okay. It sounds like from one of our people watching that things are showing on the stream.
Okay, maybe they can hear too. So maybe that's just it's showing.
Yeah, people definitely could hear what we're saying.
You can hear
feedback.
Me. Okay. Yeah. All right, Steve just talked a little bit. Chat, can you hear?
Sure.
Steve.
Yeah.
Now can you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I won't touch anything.
Okay. I think we're good.
Sorry for that. Hopefully everyone heard Steve recapping the survey we were looking for.
Yep.
That we're going to be doing and we'll get into this too with the calendar. So it won't be even if that stuff did cut out, which hopefully it didn't. We'll jump into.
No, I think people are hearing us. Okay, so let me dive into the first event. So we'll start on January 28th, and like last year, we're going to begin with Premier Hoth because that I think was the overwhelming favorite among the survey respondents for the early formats. So the options are like Premier Only, Premier A New Hope, or Premier Hoth. Premier Hoth was the clear winner, and I think we talked a little bit about that before, Andy, about why that's a
big
just the best format to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that most people like. You still see people even when it's not the time of the year when that specific retro events going on. You'll see a spike in casual tables getting posted.
Yeah,
you'll still see people posting Premier Hoth.
Oh, definitely. I'll play Premier Hoth physical, in person, or online whenever because it's super fun.
Yeah. We just started up more casual leagues as well for that, and Premier Hoth's getting a lot of play. So hopefully people can see this calendar up here. The yellow is as my Streamlabs continues to be very, very annoying. January 28th, as Steve mentioned, that will be the kickoff. That'll be Sunday. So registration will cut off usually 2 days before that, on the 26th. It'll run 6.5 weeks. We build in some buffer. And I think pretty much all these events, the general standard is 6.5 weeks for the event, and then like a week and a half off. And then the next event will start. They always are going to start on Sundays is the general plan here. So yellow is the Premier de Hoth, as you could see. The aqua is going to be the Premier de Cloud City modified. I'm definitely going to toss this to Andy to talk about. Because we're going to do something new. We're having a ban list. This was a new format that Jeremy DiPaolo, the lead Gem Slicer, just instituted. So you folks will notice that has its own league. It has its own format. It bans 5 cards. And Andy, my question to you is, why are there 4 light side cards banned and 1 dark side?
Well, dark side I feel like is very stable in that format. There might be like 1 or 2 other dark side cards that could potentially just be like kind of broken and nuts, but I didn't really want to push the envelope on the number of banned cards that people need to learn. But light side in that format, it's all just tricks and gimmicks, right? Like, so nobody likes. So the 5 banned cards are numbers on both sides. So premiered or 3,721 and Never Tell Me the Odds. But I think that's universal, that most people just kind of hate those cards.
Those cards suck, yeah.
And like, anecdotally, there's always like some random returning player that comes onto GIMP and like posts a table. And I have a deck built for like every format. And somebody came back on and posted like Premier de Dagobah, which I know is a slightly different format, but it still has numbers. And my deck is just like 15 of the Astromech droid that's Destiny 4, like a bunch of Uncertain is the Future, and a bunch of like numbers. And I sat there and just like insert Uncertain is the Future. He conceded on turn 3 after numbers popped 3 times.
You just taught that returning player a lesson about why that format's bad.
It's just, they're just not really well designed cards. I get where Disciple was trying to go with it, where like nobody had 5 copies of Premier Vader in 1997, but numbers just swung way too hard the other way. And then on light side, Anger, Fear, Aggression, again, another insert card, not as brutal as numbers, but in a format that's going to have a bunch of people sitting under the Hoth Energy Shield or over on Dagobah. It's easy to just run like 12 or 14 copies of Anger, Fear, Aggression every turn, just make your opponent lose 4 force, which awful. Is not really great. And then light side gets Asteroid Sanctuary banned, which again, just another one of those cards that's like very abusive. You just plop down an X-Wing or Red Leader and Red 1 and the big 1 and make them lose, force drain for plus at the big 1. And like your opponent can just never get there to like kill off Sanctuary. And Community Big Coward isn't in the format to suspend Asteroid Sanctuary, neither is Outer Rim Scout. And so it's just like, it's one of those cards where like, if you ban numbers, you ban Anger, Fear, Aggression, people are just going to go to Asteroid Sanctuary and you're just going to play Asteroid Sanctuary every single match.
Right.
Yeah. And so get rid of that. And then the other card to get rid of is specifically light side clouds, because there's just ways for light side to really abuse clouds, either under the Hoth Energy Shield or on Dagobah. And if you ever remember playing way back in the day, Dagobah clouds is just like
it's horrible.
Like worst decks to play against. No fun. You sit there, you train it to ban a gas miner to test 1, and then sit there with draining on Dagobah, and your opponent just cannot do anything. So Darkseid doesn't really have an equivalent to like a system where you could just like hide forever. Darkseid Clouds, I guess, is fine, but that's really why there's 4 banned light side cards, only 1 on dark side. There's a couple other dark side cards, like I said, that I think could just be maybe a little bit too good. But we'll see how it shakes out. But I think there's kind of this natural progression from like Premiere to Premiere New Hope to Premiere to Hoth to Premiere to Dagobah to Premiere to Cloud City, that like in a slightly different, parallel universe, like you would have seen this progression of like mains and toys decks, right? Like
Yeah.
you see it from Premiere to A New Hope to Hoth, and then it just like dies in Dagobah. Like Dagobah is, in my opinion, just the worst set ever because it just kills the game, right? With all this stupid junk that goes on.
Yeah.
And so if you
A
get rid
dangerous
of
time.
like a couple of really key cards, you can continue on this path of like,
Yeah.
Vader and Obi and like actually having like real mains and toys decks. And then also getting a lot of the cool like battling interrupts that you get out of Cloud City. Like, everybody jokes that you just always open a red card when you open a pack of Cloud City, but like a lot of those cards actually are like pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But if you have a format that's just dominated by numbers or Sanctuary or Dagobah Clouds, like you're never going to play with any of that stuff. So
Do you think we'll see people like getting out like the OG bounty hunters from Dagobah that never get played later because the EPPs are around? We'll see some of that stuff.
you're definitely going to see Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Bosk is pretty good.
Yeah.
He adds to attrition.
Zuckuss
Vanguard
maybe.
is fine because he can cancel Han's forfeit or reduce his forfeit to 0, and Zuckuss is ability forward, unity to attrition. He can react. IG88.
Maybe not. Yeah.
I mean, they all have 4 Lam for sure. Like that.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. But yeah,
like,
the other ones are cool.
Boba Fett, Zuckuss, probably 1 and 2.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, you might see some of that stuff
Cool.
come back. So I'm pretty excited for that format. It looks pretty good. It's very untapped. Like nobody really has any type of decks for it because it never existed before. So exciting to see what the community builds and brings to those 5-6 weeks. I think it could
Maybe
be really
Ugnaughts,
cool.
maybe Lobot.
Probably not. Probably not carbon chamber tech, carbon freezing. But it might be the case that something like a dangerous time and defensive fire might have needed to also go out of that format. But we'll see how it turns out because shocking revelation is still in the format, so you can like they start doing like Miami and scanning crews and stuff. You definitely can shock those guys.
Yeah, I played one game of Premiere to Cloud City a long time ago, and it was unbearable. I think I could see it by like turn 2.
Yeah, it's really awful.
So this is good that we have this limited ban list. See how it goes. I'm excited. Like you said, Andy, like that's what I thought. I was like, oh, let me build this fun light side mains Cloud City deck, and go from there. And it was just I couldn't get anything started. And it was like I was like, I'll never play this format again. So if we could knock out some of the NPE negative play experience items, I think that'll go a long way, and it'll be kind of cool to have an unsolved format. So that'll be the event 2, and folks will see that format on there. You can play casual games, or you can play in the leagues that are going to be set up monthly now. And then starting in April, we're going to be doing the annual online event, very, very likely for charity once again. That'll start like middle of May. And so not April. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, middle of May, we're targeted to do that. And that'll span like it has the last few years, like around 6 weeks. Then it'll be like a top 8 showdown. And we'll go from there. And then after that, starting in July, or the very, very end of June, I should say, is when the league will pick up. We'll do Premiere to Death Star 2. Or no, take that back. Premiere to Endor for Event 3. It now includes Enhanced Jabba's Palace and Enhanced Cloud City.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we were gonna do that last year, like a week before Premiere to Endor was supposed to go.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. I had to just restart Streamlabs. So I skipped over. We're going to do the annual event. It's going to be May to June. The format's going to be classic, no virtual cards, which in other words is Decipher cards only, less Episode 1 cards, and less shields, and less maintenance cards. So it's basically like Premiere Reflections 2 plus the helper cards from Tatooine, Coruscant. And then a lot of like the stuff, as Andy has talked about this several times in his streams, like pod racing, combat, Senate, that stuff at the end of the Decipher era was just brutal and oppressive
Yeah.
and way too strong. So it's good that that's all out. It also makes it so you're not going to ever want to float shields, because even the shields
Right.
that are, if they weren't specifically banned, you could in theory float shields, but you wouldn't want to do that because they're Destiny Zero. So yeah, so it's an untapped format. It's not played a ton. I think it'll be cool in that it isn't like super solved. I'm sure there's going to be some decks that are pretty obviously strong. Like I'm sure Watch Your Step is going to be strong.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe and
Yes.
Black Sun probably too. And yeah, so we'll do that. It's going to be again 12 games of Swiss and then 8 player playoff, and that should wrap up end of June. So that's
Yeah.
Classic Novi. Andy did a good job describing, and Steve too, obviously describing the premiere to Endor
Hmm.
plus ECC and EJP. Event 4 is going to be our good old staple, Death Star 2, Premiere Death Star 2, so that shouldn't be any surprises.
Yeah.
And Event 5 will be Premiere Reflections 2, again with no AOBS or Watch Your Step like it was in 2023.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
we got three familiar metas, and then one completely untapped one. Well, two kind of classic, no virtual, and then a variation of Peru to Endor. So it's a really good mix of new and old, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree. And then, as Steve alluded to, we're going to be doing something new, which, based on the survey feedback, people were really excited about this. I think over 90%. I think like 60% of people were positive, and maybe 30 were like neutral, and then only like 10 were like against it. We're going to do a playoff of the 8 top finishers, so the cumulative standings. This will probably be the 5 event winners, and then plus 3 more. But it could be if someone plays and wins an event and like barely plays at all, or does really poorly in the other 4 events, they're not going to qualify. But it'll be 8 players. We'll play off similar to the online championship series, but actually it'll probably be a little bit better because you're going to lock your decks for all 3 rounds. The format, because we do this medley format, basically it's going to be like a voting system where first place gets like 8 tokens or weight of 8. Second place in the league will get 7. Third place will get 6, and so on. And basically people can kind of allocate their tokens to whatever 3 potential formats. So it's going to be Premier to Hoth, Premier Death Star 2, or Premier Reflections 2 with the 2 cards banned. And then kind of however that weighted voting shakes out, that'll be the format for the top 8 playoff. And then players will lock their decks. Will play, so it'll be 3 rounds: quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. I think it'll be really exciting. Good opportunity to stream all these, give a good exposure, and it also provides, something for people to play with, or an incentive for people to play all the way through, play all 5 events, do really well all the way to the end. Steve, did you get? I mean, I think people were pretty diligent throughout, but at some point, some people might be like, if they're 14th after 4 events, this still gives them something very tangible to play.
Definitely. Yeah. I think this will be great. It'll be really fun at the end to see that championship.
Yeah, and the deck locks will be good, so there won't be any games with that stuff. So that'll be more details to come with all this. Is going to be posts coming up. I'm sure Steve will do a post about the league in total. It's going to be a question.
Yeah, we'll summarize all this on the forums in the next week or so.
But yeah, definitely know that the cutoff for event 1 is January 26th. That's a Friday.
Right.
Right. All right. So then there are going to be 2 sets of prizes. So you're going to have we'll have pretty similar prizes for the 5 event circuit, and then there's going to be another layer of prizes for the top 8 and that. But it's going to be a lot of the same. Based on I got a lot of informal feedback, and we did the feedback last year on the prizes. I don't think we're going to be doing drastic changes for those. One cool thing, I'm trying to think of whose exact idea this was. It might have been Tommy's, but we're going to be doing these new hyperroute navigation charts for the year as prize support, which I have on the screen now. Let me move us a little bit. So these are going to be updates. These are all of the systems on the back through all the Decipher printed systems except episode 1 ones. So that's the back. And then the front, of course, is going to be, like we have done a few of these already, a few rounds of these, just promotional items, all the social media links and homes. But these are definitely geared for retro players, for returning players to the game who really like Decipher era formats. We'll have them and give them out, different folks that are running in-person events. That's absolutely something we want to support and give these items out to. I'm about to order these any day now. So they'll definitely be in the prize package. They'll be, again, used in promotions as well. So let's see. So it's that. One thing before we kind of wrap up. I mean, let me toss it to you guys. I'll start with Steve. So
Yeah. Hmm.
we asked this on the survey, the scouting thing. So some folks I think
Yeah.
interpreted, hey, you can change your deck. I think some people thought changing your decks was an advantage for the person who was metagaming for someone specific, as opposed to like a defensive play of someone's watching my game. I'm going to tweak a couple cards for the next round. So maybe I have some new tricks, or or you can even play a whole different archetype if you want of a deck. So,
Right.
Steve,
Right.
what was your kind of takeaway on the scouting thing? And for the
Yeah.
most part, most
So
people were like
there,
okay with the status quo.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things about it, and I'll turn it over to Andy for his thoughts. I think there's different arguments, different schools of thought on this. I think there's valid points on each side. But for those who don't know, basically, in the Retro League since last year, since 2022, we've allowed people to observe, and people can change their decks throughout an event, both light side and dark side deck. And some people think that there are people that are watching their games and mitigating against them. But other people think that it allows for the meta to shift and evolve as people see certain decks become dominant. Like if everybody's bringing before me for dark side, then maybe I'll make some tweaks, be better prepared for it. I think there's good arguments on either side of this, but I think what we decided to do is stick with the status quo of observers allowed and decks not locked. So if people want to go to that, like the level of thinking about how the meta is shifting and evolving and making choices of their decks based upon what they think they're most likely to see. And then on the other side, if you think that people might be coming for your deck, have a backup deck. And if you're at that level of play and that level of competitiveness, I think that's actually healthy for the event to have that kind of strategic thinking. Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on your last thought of at the same time, like, you don't necessarily need to take it that seriously.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
What are the odds, right? It all comes together.
there's prizes and stuff on the line, which people do want to get their prizes and stuff, but yeah, I just think that if you're purposely going out trying to watch what your weekly opponents are going to be playing, and then like postponing your like scheduling, be like, yeah, I can't play till 10 p.m. Saturday night, and then sit there and watch them play 6 games through the week. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of just falls into like the don't be a dick rules.
Yeah.
It's really like a 5% issue. Like I feel like 95% of the time this won't even pop up, because someone will need to follow a particular person and then get matched up with that exact person, and they might not. You're not going to see 100% of the opponent's deck anyway. In most circumstances, that's why we only stream the last.
Like at a point, like if I know that I'm going to play Jared this weekend, he's going to pop into my game 5 times throughout the week. I might just change my deck. There's like
games.
levels and levels of meta
Right.
that can go on.
Yeah.
And on the more casual side, I mean, allowing observers, I think it has built a sense of community, and people pop in and say, hey, good play, or oh, that was awesome, that kind of thing. And I think there's been more net positive than negative. But I understand people who feel the other way about it, but we weighed the responses and weighed the pros and cons. And I think we're going to stick with the status quo for the coming year on this one.
Yeah, 2 more quick points. Just one is I think it's really important exposure. A lot of people learn Gemp, they learn the meta, they come back by watching games. So it's really important to have public games, especially competitive ones, of good players, or even just players in the league, which a lot of people probably approach it like as a semi-competitive. They go too crazy about things, and the like. But the other thing that I was going to mention, which of course I forgot, and now I'm going to think about it in a minute, but
yeah, I mean, I do that with Open. I'm trying to learn some of the Open stuff. I watch every one of Justin Desai's games whenever I can, because he's just a master. So it's like, might as well try to watch, because that's the best way to learn. Watch over the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to mention is the deck list. So I don't know if people realize, like, if you're going to lock decks and require everyone to do it, that's something we haven't completely mastered, doing that in a efficient manner. It might change soon. So maybe this time next year we might be like, oh yeah, we can do deck submittals and deck checks very quickly in a very automated manner, and then maybe then makes a little more sense. But right now that is a consideration that I'm not sure everyone is taking into account if you're going to start requiring everyone to submit their list, and then they all have to be checked versus what was actually played. So that's one thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of logistical burden on a certain person, perhaps me. So
yeah. There's certain shortcuts, but it's still too intensive to be worth it right now. Steve, you wanted to mention the questionnaire and just a reminder about like when time zones and good times
so
to play.
probably the second most talked about issue after this, the viewing observer public deck list thing, is time zones and the difficulty of scheduling opponents. Now, I think that we had a big improvement on this in 2023 over 2022. Since I saw every single match and every single email, lots more problems in 2022 with people having confusion or missing games. So one thing I did in 23 was I added the like a little column in the contact info table with everyone's time zone, just give a better sense of where everybody was at. But I think this year we're going to go a step further, and we're going to in the player questionnaire when you register for the league, and we ask you some questions about like your handle on GIMP and everything like that. We're going to also ask you your time zone, and then what is your preferred days and times to play, and try to put in like as broad as possible, but also give some guidance. You could say 9 to midnight East Coast time or whatever. Put that in, and then I'll sort of convert it all to GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, and put it in another column on the table.
Yeah,
and then
really
I think what I'll also do is have like some link to like a time zone converter attached to that every single email, so people can easily just like plug that in and figure out what time that is for them. And so hopefully it'll avoid some of this like constant emails you have to do back and forth in the first couple of days to figure out where everybody's at and all that. And then beyond that, I just people need to just when you commit to the league, commit to being able to play for an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, whatever it is, not very much, and having some flexibility and availability. And then I think that's the best we can do with this if we want to keep it in the current Swiss blind pairings.
Yeah, I think that'll help. Just kind of what are my couple sweet spots of when I play on Gem. List that out, and that'll be good. So that's pretty much everything. Just so let's do some wrap ups. The one other thing I wanted to mention actually too, I'm working with Devin, our website infrastructure chief, I'll say. And one thing I want to get is a nice quick URL for everything retro. So retro.starwarsccg.org. It's not set up quite yet, but I told him, hey, at least for the time being, just send us to the Retro League forum, and we can maybe change that over time. But I think that'll be a good place. So, maybe in like a month or so, check in on that, maybe even less. But otherwise, the forum is probably the best place. With links, there's always promotion. We try to keep all this stuff as accessible as possible. But there'll definitely be promotion once the item is in the store for registration for the league. Steve will be sending emails out to folks who played in the last couple of years as, hey, registration is open. Fill out this questionnaire. He's going to do the forum post, link to all that, and that's how we'll get situated over the next.
And I'll promote it on Reddit and a few other places. And for those of you guys watching, if you have a friend who you played with back in high school, college, whenever, that hasn't played in a while, just let them know it's starting up again in January, and they only have to know the 3 sets, probably the 3 most famous sets to start off with, and it's a great way to jump back in.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so with that, just again, huge thanks to Steve and Andy for all their help throughout the year. It looks like there was a good opportunity, like Eddie, who stepped in and streamed. I think Will might have done a game or two, but I know we have some folks who really like retro formats, and hopefully, are able and willing to help more with streaming, because coverage is great, especially as we get, or really exclusively as we get late into these events when you get some really good matchups. And thanks to James Martin, who did a lot of help with promotion throughout the year of plugging stuff on Twitter and different social media. I mentioned Garrett and Dan for streaming a lot. Tom Sarakan, who helped with design the playmats and get those ordered. Again, the feedback on playmats everywhere I see is always very positive, so we'll probably incorporate them into next year as well. And then Scotland Grell is obviously very helpful with prizes. So I just, parting words, and I'll throw it to you guys as well, but just I think the progress over the last couple of years has been really great. I'm really looking forward to 2024. I think some of these tweaks that we're making are going to be very positive. Everyone's getting a little more familiar with scheduling games, and some of these formats are, like Steve said, a couple staples and things that people are very familiar with, and there's a couple that are a little bit different and new and will present good challenges and good kind of new frontiers. So let me throw it to Andy. Any parting words?
Yeah, just really happy with how everything's progressed over the last couple of years. when I first came back into playing in like 2020, there really wasn't anything going on with retro. And as it's going into 3 years of playing online and stuff, it's you can post a table and have somebody to play with almost immediately. The community's grown really expansively, and lots of people playing all sorts of different formats and stuff. So really just great to see all that and get the support from the PC, and recognize that you guys have your hands in lots of different things going on throughout the year, and being able to devote or dedicate even just a little bit of time to to people that are interested in these older formats is really great to see.
Yeah, and I mean, just huge thanks to the Players Committee. I got back into playing rather than just collecting in 2021 at the World Retro event. So it was a great opportunity for me to get back in. It's been really fun to be able to give back to the community and like carry this forward. So looking forward to 2024.
Yeah, there's just a lot of demand on it. Or I think it's very untapped. I think there's a lot of players who aren't aware of GEMP, aren't aware that the PC does sponsor these types of events. So encourage everyone in the league to build awareness of it. And GEMP, play.starwarsccg.org has just been a godsend in terms of these older formats and sealed formats and retro formats that just make it so easy, relatively speaking, for this complex game to do all these different formats and do stuff like this league. So thanks to everyone who works on GEMP and has worked on it in the past. All right, so with that, thanks so much, Steve and Andy, for doing this with me. I'll stitch together some of those technical difficulties and hopefully have one nice stream for replay. But thanks to everyone who was participating in the chat, and appreciate it. And make sure you sign up for the league this year, and may the force be with you. All right, take care.
See you all later. Happy New Year.